candidates with the Fountain Valley Chamber. We are going to start off today with a flag salute. I think we have a place to stand, everybody. If you do, I would love to have our city councilman, Glenn Brandes, lead us in that. There's the flag.
Can we hold that for you?
All right, everybody. I pledge allegiance
To
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that important tradition. We will be recording today's event as we did last Tuesday. And for those who haven't seen, last Tuesday's event is now up on the Chamber's YouTube channel. So you can go there now and see. If you happen to miss last week's lunch, you can go and watch and hear the candidates speak from last Tuesday. Today, our special guests are 4 important people running for City Council this November: Ms. Kim Constantine, Jim Pineen, Daryl Lyman Brown, and Michael Mao. I am going to pass the mic down, thank you, and allow them to introduce themselves and give a brief introduction about who they are and why they're running for council. Oh, 2 minutes. And I will come and start tapping you should you go over.
The timer. I'll give you a 10-second countdown.
We'll start with Michael.
Well, aloha everybody, and thank you for coming. My name is Michael Mao. Can you hear me back here? Okay, great. So I'm going to touch, yeah, I can stand up. I'm not a tall guy. Oh, but no, I need to be on camera, so I can't. So a little bit about myself, and then I'll talk a little bit about why I decided to run. I was born and grew up in Wisconsin. At age 18, I left and enlisted in the United States Air Force. I've lived in every region of the country, and I've lived overseas for a couple years. This is my second time living in Fountain Valley, and this is where we hope is our final destination now that I've retired. During my life, I have the opportunity to learn from a lot of talented leaders and briefed U.S. Congress members, the director of the CIA, military generals, and the Cal State University president. I've developed and implemented and managed many different programs, managed substantial budgets, supervised teams of professionals. And I don't mention these things to brag, I'm just mentioning these as kind of the foundation for my qualifications. Through a life well lived, I have acquired a broad perspective of the world. I have empathy for those with different views and cultures, realize the uniqueness and value of each individual. I served our nation as an Air Force veteran and retired CIA officer. I served our community as an HOA board member, a volunteer at local events, and active within my church and neighborhood watch. Throughout my life, I have happily donated my time to be a Boy Scout troop committee chair and support my son in getting his Eagle Scout and support my daughter in getting her Girl Scout Gold Award. I've been selected as the president of a nonprofit group, a longtime mentor to high school and college students and young professionals and veterans. And the reason I decided to run is when I came back to Fountain Valley the second time, it wasn't quite the same as the first time. And I think Fountain Valley's been well managed, but I think we can still improve. And I'm really looking forward to building Fountain Valley for the future. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for coming. Can you hear me?
Louder.
Okay, I'll talk louder.
Yes.
Closer.
Okay, I'm Daryl Lyman Brown. I'm running for city council.
This is as loud as it goes. Hold the microphone
Just a
up.
mic.
No, closer to your mouth.
Okay. All right. Okay, now that we've got the microphone under control,
Just
I'll
hold it
start
like
again. I think my 2 minutes might be up.
No, you're fine.
All right. So again, I'm Daryl Lyman Brown. I'm running for city council. I am a long-term Fountain Valley resident. I was not born here, I was raised here, attended school here. And I have lived in Fountain Valley on and off since I believe 1968. I have seen Fountain Valley go from farmland to development to schools being built and then schools being taken away. I've decided that City Council is the place to be. I've been going through neighborhoods asking people's opinions on what's going on and what they're aware of in the city. I found out that many people were not aware of changes going on, and I was acting as a liaison between them and speaking at meetings as far as what subjects were coming up. My qualifications, I live in Fountain Valley. Again, I have been involved in the community since my children were little, and actually before that, when I was young, I did community service starting at age 11. I have worked in schools mostly. I'm a former teacher. I was a volunteer at Courageous Elementary School. I helped with specific events. I was room mom, classroom aide, PTA person. I've been involved in the community for quite some time. Currently, I am a volunteer with the Friends of the Library, Fountain Valley Friends of the Library. I spend a lot of time volunteering there. I work with special events, and I really enjoy that. It's allowed me to meet some people and reconnect with people that I had met with previously. Okay, it looks like my time's about up, so I don't know what else to say except thank you very much for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I first want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this. Free lunch is always nice, right? So welcome. My name is Jim Canine. You know me. I've been serving as your school board member for almost 8 years. You've entrusted me with that important position, and I really want to continue leading. My kids are pretty much grown up. They're out of the school system, and I want to continue to make Fountain Valley a place where they want to live and raise their kids. And so really my motive is to continue all the good work that the city leaders have done over the years and continue to make this a fantastic place to live. My 4 top priorities as a council member will be: 1 is to provide our police and our firefighters the resources they need to keep Fountain Valley safe. 2, I want to help improve our streets and our parks. Infrastructure is very important for us right now. 3, I'd like to make sure and ensure that we have accountability and complete transparency for our taxpayer dollars. And 4 is to attract and maintain healthy businesses with really good paying jobs. So those are my 4 top priorities. A little bit about me. I have 5 kids. My wife is a teacher at Marina High School. They've all been born and raised here. We love Fountain Valley. It's our home. I've served in many capacities at the city, and right now I serve as the chair of the General Plan Advisory Committee. Was really happy to continue the work that Mayor Cheryl Brothers started with us, and so thank you, Cheryl. So I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for coming. What we're doing.
I'm Kim Constantine. I'm your Fountain Valley Mayor Pro Tem. Looking forward to being your next mayor. And I'm very active here in the community. I volunteer my time daily. Can I hear it? Speak out loud. Anyway. I do volunteer my time daily. I speak with a lot of residents and businesses and answer questions. I post on social media and I give a lot of information to the community. I'm sorry, I'm speaking the loudest I can. And I would like to continue on here on the city council, and I look forward to serving you some more. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have quite a bit bigger crowd here this week. So I'm going to go straight to the audience. I will reserve the chamber questions for the end if we have time, but I'm going to let you guys have the chance to ask the questions that you want to ask. So raise your hand if you have one, and I will come around. Okay, here you go. Tracy?
Passage of HH by our community allowed us to pay down our pension debt and also to maintain a high level of city services. The fire department maintain our parks and streets and other city services. What was your stand on HH? And were you for it or were you against it? And now that you know and are aware of how much it is helping our community, if you were voting today, would you vote yes or no?
Okay, we will start. I'm going to start with somebody different each time. So we'll start this time with Daryl, go back down that way, and then with Michael.
And 1 minute?
1 minute answers.
All right, so I practice with my microphone. As far as HH goes, I did not vote for it. I was not in favor of it at the time. I have seen that it has created a cash flow for the city. I do have some questions about it. I was reading some memos where there was some concern about where that HH surplus money is going. So I would like to read more about that to determine whether or not I would vote for it at this time.
That's Justin.
So in 2016, there were two bonds. There was Measure O and Measure HH. Your city had never had two bonds at the same time. Honestly, I did not vote for HH. At the time, I think my understanding was limited on really the role that Measure HH has actually played 6 years later. I think I have a new understanding primarily because I've interviewed with both the Firefighters Association and the Police Association. I've also spoken recently with our city manager, Maggie Lee. And so I think I have a much bigger understanding and a wider picture of how Measure HH is benefiting our city. And it really is. That the additional 3 million or so each year is something that our city needs. And so I think it's doing its job.
Hello, everyone. Well, I was against Measure HH. I did not vote for it. A sales tax increase, there's nothing to be excited about there. While it is doing very well for us, we, City Council, we do have the authority to lower the rate there. And I'm hoping we can pay down our pension debt and get it paid off sooner rather than later. And the money is being used appropriately. But again, I believe we could have looked at things in a different way. But we have it now, so this is hindsight at this point. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to send it behind the table for now. Yeah.
All right. Well, my answer will be a little brief. So in 2016, I was still at Langley, Virginia, so I couldn't have voted for it. We moved here in 2018. From what I know of the measure, and in speaking with my friend Steve, who is very knowledgeable on the measure, if it were up to vote today, I would vote for it. I think it's been a success, and I think, as long as the majority of residents did vote for it, that kind of was the will of the community, and I think it was a good idea.
I'm going to take this opportunity real quick. If I have any of the people in the back there, you want to bring your chairs up here so you guys can hear better? There's some chairs. Actually, there's a seat. There's another seat here so you guys can hear. Come on up. Get a little closer. There we go. There's some seats. There's a seat here, 2 seats here, there's a seat here. If you guys would like to get a little closer.
Can't we use AT&T to get them a wireless mic?
Yeah, right.
Maybe repeat the question.
I'm sorry, the next person who had their hand up, was that you, ma'am?
I don't know.
No, what is the question? I'll repeat it. Okay, she would like to know what your position is on short-term rentals here in Fountain Valley. This time we'll begin with Jim and then go around that way.
1 minute.
So Millie, exactly, what was the beginning of the question? I didn't hear it.
Short-term rentals. What's your
Position on
position?
short-term rentals? Well, first of all, I want to disclose that my wife and I actually have a short-term rental in the mountains in Lake Gregory and Crestline. We're actually members of the Fountain Valley Chamber, and it's called Canadian Cabins. So with that said, I understand a lot about short-term rentals. One thing I can tell you in San Bernardino is it is heavily regulated. We've actually paid $1,000 in fines for parking that our guests were just a few feet out of the parking zone. So I think I have a pretty strong understanding on how regulated short-term rentals can be. Here in Fountain Valley, I've listened to a lot of the speakers, especially at the Planning Commission last week. And I think for Fountain Valley, we really have to take a hard look and ask the deeper questions. Are these good for our neighborhoods? I don't think my neighbors would appreciate what I've heard from some of the neighbors in the other part of the city. So I think regulation of these is definitely in order, but how far to go on that, I think that still needs to be discussed.
Okay, so I've been on the record so far as a firm no, they're not good for our neighborhoods. It is on tonight's city council agenda, so I will continue to keep an open mind. But I prefer actually legitimate hotels as to burdening our residents in the city with short-term rentals.
Here. We'll do it next time around.
Right, so in general, my view on short-term rentals is I'm not in favor of them in residential neighborhoods. Having said that, if the city could prove, and thus far they have not, that we could actually put in the required enforcement to regulate it properly, I would reconsider that. But right now, for the past 2 years, the city has proven to be unwilling or unable to even maintain a simple ban on not allowing short-term rentals. So I would think we could not, as a city, say we're going to do all this stuff just because we wrote it on paper if we don't already have the enforcement element in place. So I'm thinking it's a possibility, but we need to make sure that we have the enforcement element in place before we make decisions on our neighbors.
I am not for short-term rentals in Fountain Valley. I believe they belong in resort-type areas as far as being a service to the traveler. I have listened to a bunch of people that are against them, and most of those people have been people who live next to or near short-term rentals. As Michael has said, they've been operating illegally in Fountain Valley for 7 years. I also have questions about regulations and how they would be enforced. I am not for them as they are, because I don't believe that we have the staff or capability to enforce all of the regulations and stipulations that have been presented thus far. I would like a lot more information to be discussed before any decision is made on those. But definitely, as overall, I am not for short-term rentals in Fountain Valley.
Thank you. Anybody else who has a question? Susan? Yeah.
In 2014, there was a measure on the ballot to increase the CO2 tax for hotels from 9% to 10%. That ballot failed in time. What is your opinion of bringing it out and support that and that go back on the ballot to increase it?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat it for the camera. In 2014, there was a ballot measure to increase the hotel sales tax from 9 to 10%. And Susan wants to know if you would be in favor of bringing that ballot initiative back.
Currently, Anaheim is at 15%, Garden Grove is at 14%. Anaheim is at 15%, Garden Grove is at 14.5%, Santa Ana is at 12%, Newport Beach is at 10%, and Costa Mesa is at 11%. We're at 9%.
Really great question. Who did we start with on that last one?
Okay, we're gonna start with Kim this time. You guys pass it down to the back.
Oh, this is what?
So far, I've not been for sales tax increases or TOT tax increases, but I will keep an open mind on this. So far, not so much. Thank you.
So if I remember, I think that was Measure S, maybe in 2014.
Yes.
Measure S, okay. My thinking on this is we've already put a sales tax 1% on our community. I would be more in favor of looking at ways to generate more business and to bring in revenue that way, rather than to look at a transient occupancy tax. I know it works in resort areas. That is pretty standard practice. But I think here in our community, we're burdened enough. Living in the state, yeah, I understand that position, but I think just as a philosophy, there are people that just struggle to make ends meet. I just don't want to put any more on the backs of any of our consumers.
Okay. As far as TOT taxes, I am for them. They will affect the hotels more than they will the taxpayers. It would assist the city in its need that I keep hearing that we need to increase our revenue. I think this would be a much better approach to increasing our revenue without affecting the entire community.
So typically, I'm usually opposed to any type of taxes as a first resort to generating revenue. Having said that, the way it's set up, if we can, and it won't negatively impact our businesses here, and according to what Susan said, so I would need more information, but if we're still under our neighbors insofar as what that percentage is, we're not going to drive business out of Fountain Valley by having an increase of that. We will still be a better location than our neighbors. So I think given the data that would be presented at the time, I could be in favor of doing that as a way of generating revenue and not placing it on the residents.
Thank you. Anybody else out there? I'm sure there are, so don't be shy. Raise your hand. Does anybody want one of her questions? Go ahead, you can ask another one.
What's your view on term limits for city council?
Okay, that's a good one. What is your view on term limits for city council? This time we'll start with Michael and just go straight down.
So I think we already have a system in place to where a person can only serve a certain amount of time, and then they have to come off of the city council. However, then they can come back on the city council. I mean, typically term limits in general sound like a good idea because we all complain about our politicians. Having said that, though, the fact that we have a vote and we have a quasi-democracy, that right there should take care of term limits. There shouldn't have to be term limit if we have fair elections, because that's the people voting then. So if the people vote, it's funny, because people always complain about their politicians, but they're voting for them. Somebody's voting, the majority of people are voting for them. So the system we have, I think, should prohibit, having to have term limits. That's my opinion.
Term limits in council, and I feel this way for any political office locally. I do believe in term limits. I believe in having different people serving on our board, since they represent the members of our community, which are over 55,000 people. Having the same people over and over again representing the views, I'm not sure that works. Everybody who's on council has their own bias. We all try to be objective as people. However, that may not always be possible, and I think having different people in to represent our city is something we need to consider.
I support our current term limits, which are 3 consecutive terms of 4 years each. Having served on the school board for 8 years, which is 2 consecutive terms, it does take time. There's a lot of learning. And so to be limited, I think, to 8 years is not quite enough. But 12 years here in the city, I think makes a lot of sense. Having 2 years off, somebody wants to come back, it's hard to win, even if you've served before. And so let the competition, probably, that's a better way to make sure that we've got the best candidates who might want to come back and serve.
Okay, so I do want absolute term limits. As a city council member, I did bring this up last year. We had a study session, and our attorney for the city did explain that, yes, we have a loophole. You just have to sit out 2 years. So I do believe in the 2024 election, it will be on our ballots, and that will be, do you want to have absolute term limits? And if so, 2 terms or 3 terms. So stay tuned on that, and that's what we need. We need new people. We don't need to serve for 12, 14, 16 years. That is just bad. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? I have one, if not. No?
Susan has one. Susan.
Susan.
Revenue ideas. Bringing more revenue.
Okay. In running the city, obviously revenue is always an issue. So what are your ideas for increasing revenue for the city of Fountain Valley? We'll start this time with Daryl and Jeff.
We've got areas in Fountain Valley that are coming up for redevelopment. I think that our city needs to have some sort of facility for young people and for families. I think we're lacking in that area. I believe if we had such places, that we would be able to generate income from our residents who would be participating with their families at those venues. There are ways to bring in revenue by bringing in new businesses, at the same time supporting our existing businesses and not making them feel like they need to leave or being displaced because of development up and coming.
So in my opening, I mentioned one of my 4 top priorities is growing best business in Fountain Valley. That's exciting, especially with a lot of these opportunities that we're studying in the General Plan Advisory Committee. I'm also excited that our new city manager Maggie Lee, has a lot of great ideas, and she's very well connected in the communities, talking about bringing new businesses into Fountain Valley, whether that's food, whether that's products, retail. There's a lot of creativity that I think I'm excited to be able to be part of that. That's one of the solutions, I think, for our city. Yes, it's a great place to live. We love living here, but it's also a business destination. I always hear Irvine brag about that. We're a technology destination, we're a business. But I think Fountain Valley's got some potential, especially with the 405, all of the infrastructure going in. We have some real exciting opportunities to bring in massive amounts of business to our city.
So I say we bring in some more hotels. They are legitimate businesses, and they do bring in a good amount of revenue and touristy tax. And we need to partner more with the Chamber of Commerce. We have city staff very good with economic development. We attend ICSC a couple of times a year, and we just need to continue in pursuit of new businesses and revenue ideas. Thank you.
Yeah, typically I agree with what my other panelists have mentioned. I will say that the hotel occupancy tax increase, of course, will bring in more money. Typically, the city has a few ways of generating revenue: taxes, fines, and fees. So with the short-term rental issue, no matter which way that's decided, there's going to be some revenue generated, either enforcing through fines, not allowing it, or if we do allow it, there'll be fees involved with collecting fees for that. So either way, short-term rentals, if we start managing it, it's going to generate some revenue. The other thing, having spent a life in government, I can absolutely tell you there is money to be saved by streamlining the bureaucracy. There's not any government entity I've ever been involved in where there's not some level of waste. So if we can streamline that, part of that is using technology. Another part of that is just some basic systemic changes. We can save money that way as well and bring in, and I'm looking forward to bringing in new business because Fountain Valley is going to grow.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so hot button topic at many city council meetings in the near past has been the RENA numbers that are mandated and unfunded from the state of California. So with those mandates, it says we must build 4,800 approximately more dwelling units in Fountain Valley. And of course, we all like to keep our nice place to live. So how would you manage the mandate versus the community's desire not to have high density housing? We'll start with Jim on this one.
So in regards to our regional housing needs assessment, our RENA numbers, it's 4,839. It's a big number. We share that high percentage with a lot of our surrounding cities. And, you know, as council members and you've heard in the past, these are numbers that we have to live with. These are big, and they're very difficult to deal with. I think I was more hopeful that some of the surrounding cities like Huntington Beach, or maybe some of the cities in LA would challenge that, but those failed. They lost, and so I think we have to grasp that reality. So let's move forward with that and see how we can at least plan and zone for those numbers. I think the challenge for us is to keep an open mind on where and exactly how those units could be planned and built. And I'm also looking at the Slater Apartments project because that's really our first go at this. Stay tuned.
Okay, so the state is saying we need more housing, but the state is not saying we need to do high-density housing. There's a misconception there. We have the space that we have. It's the developers and some property owners that want to do high-density housing. That's the truth. Again, you can take it how you want to. We have just the space that we have. And we've lost a lot of local control already. Mail ballots, SB 9, ADUs, I could go on and on. And we need to just accommodate with the housing that we can do in the space that we have. And I have no fear whatsoever about losing more local control, because it's a given, we're going to lose more local control. Thank you.
I think on this issue, and it is a big issue, but it's a reality as well. So we should move forward, not from a perspective of fear, but from a perspective of kind of optimism, and meeting the challenge. Growth is not a negative thing in general, and if we manage it correctly, there's a lot of positive. There's new tax money, there's new revenue, we have new neighbors. Having said that, though, one of the reasons we moved to Fountain Valley is we want to live in a nice residential community. If you go down to some of our neighboring cities, God, I would not want to live in these places. And for the people who have owned their homes here for decades and maybe generations, and then to have some high density dwelling built right next to them, that doesn't seem right. We do need to meet our RENA numbers. The Planning Commission has indicated that we can do that through the approach we're moving. We are going to have to build some high density, but I am absolutely opposed to building high density in high density areas. We have other options for high density.
the RENA numbers go, there is a misconception that we must build these 4,839 units. The RENA state mandate says we must plan to allocate land and rezone so that we can possibly build 4,839 units over an 8-year period. Planning Commission stated that we are on track for that. As far as how high and height-wise and how high density we need to go, those are up for consideration. People, again, as Michael said, we are in a residential community. We have always had rules that we can not go over 3 stories. That is what our community expects. As far as building high up, that was not ever in our plan. I understand it's been approved and in our mixed use. However, we do need to take into consideration that this is not a mandate to build, it is a mandate to plan, and we are on track for that.
Thank you. Is there any last question? Any last questions? Steve? It's easier if you can speak into the mic.
My question has to do with parking. Parking seems to be a problem throughout the city. Not just in areas with high density, but in my neighborhood, in Green Valley, we have an apartment here, and so a lot of the people that live there park in our neighborhood. So how would you handle that?
Who started last time? Okay, so Kim is going to start this time.
Well, yes, we do have a lot of parking problems in the city, and quite frankly, I am going to be proposing in the near future that we do look into that. There's a lot of detail to this, but for now, we need to look into them, and I'm going to bring that forward. Thank you.
So if you come to the Canine House on La Marmota, you'll know that we have 7 drivers with 7 cars. And we go out of our way every night to make sure that we don't impact our neighbors. So I get cars in the garage, I get cars on the driveway, and then I make sure that whoever's out early is on the curb. So I know personally, parking is something I live with all the time. It's kind of a fact of life here in Fountain Valley. We just have to be good neighbors, and we have to continue to be kind to each other. We can work things out. Parking issues are complex, but there are professionals, there are experts who know how to figure these out. They're very creative. So I look forward to working through those solutions. But just beware if you come to the Canine House with lots of cars.
Parking issues in Fountain Valley, as others have said, is an issue. They are more of an issue in areas where there are apartments. Apartments tend to say, well, it's all been taken care of. We have done studies. There will be no problem. There is a problem. There needs to be some sort of permit in place for apartment buildings. As far as being a good neighbor, that's wonderful, and we hope people do. I don't believe in ever mandating people to park their cars in a garage. I think that's overstepping. I do believe we need to be courteous towards one another and take into consideration that there is only a certain number or a certain amount of space on a street. It has been suggested that we have a parking study or a parking committee or something to that effect. That's all great and dandy as long as they have an idea as to what they are going to do and not just make a bunch of rules that we all need to hope for.
Yeah, I think parking is definitely a problem as it is, and it is going to become a bigger problem once that Slater investment goes up at that corner. Because already if you drive down Slater at 5 o'clock at night, there is absolutely no street parking whatsoever because you have the Havens apartment complex. If you turn right on San Mateo, there's absolutely no street parking because you have Park Pacific apartments coming up from Warner and Crystal Springs as well. So we are going to definitely be faced with that issue relatively soon, and we can't rely on the goodwill of our neighbors as much as I would like to. we are gonna have to think about some zoning or some permits or something of that nature, because even if the Slater Investment has a decent amount of parking, it's not gonna, there's no room for even 2 extra cars, I can tell you that, because I drive there all the time. So that is gonna be an immediate issue that we'll have to deal with, and I think we'll need to look at zoning or permits.
Thank you. Was there a question over here? Thank you. Okay, I am going to thank our guest speakers today, allow them to give a 1-minute conclusion and let them pitch their name and their numbers to you. So we will start next with Daryl.
To sum things up, I'll just give a brief accounting of what it is I am wishing to focus on. Limiting high-density housing, eliminating short-term rentals, having in place some sort of communication and outreach for our community other than depending on the website and Channel 3. We have a large portion of our community that is not tech savvy, and I believe we're not representing the elderly part of our community by expecting people to just know where to go. And whenever there are big changes, I believe we need to reach out and notify all residents, not just 200 or 300 feet out. That encompasses perhaps 100 people, and that leaves 55,000 people without knowledge.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out, listening to us, learning from us. I just want to leave you with this one message, that I love serving our community. I've been living here almost 30 years. I think that there are really good times ahead for all of us. We have great schools. I've learned a lot serving as your school board member. I hope that you can trust me with your vote and your confidence as your next city council member. I have some signs, quick plug. You go to convene or fbcouncil.com. We've been very active, we're everywhere. I appreciate and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
I really enjoyed serving my community, our community, and please continue to connect with me. My email address is kimconstantinefb@gmail.com, and my phone number is 714-335-2280. Thank you so much.
All right, great. I get to be the closer, which I love. So once again, I want to say aloha, which means hello and goodbye. But in the same token, I want to briefly say thanks to the Chamber and to Memory and Janelle for setting this up. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us and hearing what we are proposing for our city. My primary things are going to be managing, the development responsibly, and then also providing for our law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders, making sure they have the resources, because we are probably going to need to look at another fire station as our population continues to grow when we get bigger. So, also in closing too, I wanted to mention that the other thing I wanted to focus on is bringing more small business to Fountain Valley, and we've already done a good job, and there's always room for more. And I do have some yard signs if anybody has a nice big yard, and I do also have some nice postcards as well. Thank you.
Thank you again to our guest speakers for taking time out of their busy schedules to be with us today. We have recorded the event, as I said. So last week's event is currently on the Chamber's YouTube channel. This week's will be up by Friday, so you can see it and watch it again or share it with people who couldn't make it here today. I'm sure that the guests will stick around for a few minutes, so if you would like to speak to them, you may do so. And I thank you very much for joining us today, and I thank Amaranth Cafe for hosting us. Susie and her team are amazing. Thank you.